Hi guys, it is a fine day here in the end times, and I guess we're in paradise somewhere in western New York on this lovely Thursday morning, August 16th, 2018. So I need to get back to Sandy's house and get ready to set up the kiss our ass goodbye party kicking off tomorrow. But before I do that, I'm just in the middle of doing what I do pretty much every day, and that's going on the pages of the mainstream media and going through all the articles my Alert Tribes members send me to bring you today's edition of my Doomer headlines, looking at the various ways the planet is going to hell in a handbasket on this beautiful day. And I just finished part one of this rant, which is the climate change roundup portion of the Doomer headlines, but we're going to switch now and just to the various flotsam and jetsam Doomer headlines to look at all the various ways this planet's going to hell with no help from climate change. And I wrapped up my last part one of this roundup with with a mention of this story. Many versions of this story I'm glad to see on the mainstream media. This is HuffPost version, which is as good as any of them. And we're going to talk about fracking. We're going to get a reality check about fracking. You might remember, I'm sure you do, you remember the mini rants I had about 3 years ago. I believe it was, probably sitting on my rock, when all of these frackers were talking about how they were bringing all of this waterless fracking technology online any day now.
Bullshit level, DEFCON 5.
And I was hitting the bullshit detector button years ago on all of these bullshit promises that fracking was no longer going to use all of the water and suck the aquifers dry. So let's check in with my bullshit detected predictions from several years ago about how we were going to see that pie in the sky. Okay, take it away, HuffPost. Fracking water use skyrockets, creating 1,440% more toxic wastewater.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yes. Let's see. So fracking companies used 770% more water per fracking well in 2016 than they did in 2011. Across all the United States major gas and oil producing regions, according to a new study.
No shit, Sherlock.
And while the number of new fracking wells decreased as gas prices fell, although of course that's turned around, that the amount of water used per well skyrocketed. And the other figure in all of this is with up to 1,440% more toxic wastewater generated in the first year of each new well's production period by 2016. The research, which is published in the peer-reviewed journal Science Advances, raises new concerns that fracking... My computer decided to eat the story. Let's see if they'll give it back. Can we have the story back, please? Well, all right. I can't believe it that my computer actually gave me the story back. Okay. The research raises new concerns that fracking imperils vital drinking water reserves. In regions where the warming climate is drying out sources of fresh water, fracking intensifies pressure on an already strained system while at the same time increasing the availability of the fuels that cause emissions, speeding up the rise in temperatures. Can we say self-reinforcing feedback loops? Fracking also produces huge volumes of wastewater laced with cancer-causing chemicals, salts, and radioactive material that can cause earthquakes and contaminate aquifers when pumped underground. Do you think so? The study found that if gas and oil prices rise and fracking production increases to the levels of the early 2010s, which it is, water use and wastewater production could multiply 50-fold. 50-fold for gas drilling and 20-fold for oil extraction by 2030. There you go. 50-fold. Mounting research shows that rising fossil fuel emissions pose grave risks to water supplies. Water levels in 21 of the world's 47 largest known aquifers are already trending negative. Yep. The demand for water, driven largely by agriculture, is on pace to increase by 55% globally between now and 2050. Food production already accounts for 70% of water withdrawals around the world, but by some estimates, farmers need to increase water use by 69% to feed the total global population by the year 2035. This is Seth Gladstone from the environmental group Food and Water Watch. Quote, "At a time when large parts of our country are suffering through persistent drought and year-round fire seasons, it is truly unconscionable that the fossil fuel industry would be allowed to divert vast volumes of water to fracking for oil and gas. The fact that the burning of this oil and gas is driving our climate chaos and intensifying the droughts and fires makes this reality all the more shameful and absurd."
No shit, Sherlock.
Oh, God. Okay, let's see. Now, of course, all of this fracking is taking place on our, not all of it, but more and more of it is taking place on America's public lands, as Donald Trump has declared all-out war on America's public lands, and selling them to the fossil fuel industries. So what is happening to some of that land that Trump cut out of? Is cutting out of the national monuments. Trump administration may sell the land cut from Utah monument.
No shit, Sherlock.
The Trump administration is considering transferring or selling more than 1,600 acres of public land that until recently were protected as part of the Utah's Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. The lands are called identified for disposal. Yes, the former national monument is now identified for disposal. One parcel sits adjacent to land owned by Republican Utah State Representative Mike Noel. A staunch opponent of the monument, Noel, who owns the land directly next door to the land now soon up for sale, Noel advocated for shrinking the protected site and applauded Trump's decision to do so. In fact, he unsuccessfully attempted to rename a Utah highway after Trump as a thank you. Good God, guys. Okay. What is going on? How are the planet eaters, all of this talk about these, I'm just going to call them neonics because I cannot say the full word, those pesticides, those bee-killing pesticides that have become more and more under attack for killing all of the pollinators. Well, we have a new pesticide to replace the old pesticide. There's only one problem with the new pesticide. New pesticide may harm bees as much as those they are replacing.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yes, a new class of pesticides positioned to replace neonics may be just as harmful to crop pollinating bees. Researchers cautioned on Wednesday. In experiments, the ability of bumblebees to reproduce and the rate at which their colonies grow were both compromised by the new sulfoxamine-based insecticides, they reported in the journal Nature. Do you think so? As with the neonics, sulfoxaflor does not directly kill the bees, but appears to affect the immune system and the ability to reproduce. There you go. The new study has been published amid legal challenges and shifting national policies on neonics, among the most commonly used insecticides in the world. There you go. All right. So what is going on with the new sulfoxamine-based insecticides are a likely successor to neonics and are being registered for use globally. The EPA has already approved 2 of the new pesticides for sale under the brand names Transform and Closer, and it has already been registered in Argentina, Australia, Canada, China, India, I love it, India, Mexico, and 24 other countries. There you go. Quoting one of these bee huggers, this study shows an unacceptable scale of impact on bumblebee reproductive success after realistic levels of exposure to sulfoxaflor. Out with the old boss, in with the new. Let's just shift gears a little bit. With the BBC News looking towards Russia and the U.S. Mystery Russian satellite's behavior raises alarm in U.S. A mysterious Russian satellite displaying, quote, very abnormal behavior has raised alarm in the U.S., according to a State Department official. This is quoting some State Department official, Assistant Secretary Eileen Poblete. Quote, "We don't know for certain what it is, and there is no way to verify it." She voiced fears that it was possible the object may be a new Soviet weapon. Russia dismissed her comments as, quote, "unfounded, slanderous accusations based on suspicions." We shall see. Okay, what is the latest with the $400 million Mars Opportunity rover? NASA's Mars Opportunity rover, a $400 million spacecraft, has been missing in a Martian dust storm for 2 months.
No shit, Sherlock.
For over 2 months, there has been no sign of NASA's Mars Opportunity rover after the car-sized space machine with a whopping $400 million price tag signed off as it disappeared inside a massive Martian dust storm on June 10th. Scientists at NASA have been eagerly listening for signs of life from the rover, but so far all they've heard is silence. But as the dust starts to settle, the team is hopeful. The team is hopeful the $400 million waste of taxpayer money will awaken again.
Oh, come on now. That ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
So, you know, there's no problem spending $400 million of taxpayers' money on sending these little gadgets to Mars to be buried in the dust. Yet Donald Trump has a big problem spending $10 million for NASA to monitor the skyrocketing greenhouse gas emissions on the blue planet, thinking it is much more of a national priority to spend hundreds of times the amount of taxpayers' money to blast off to the red planet. Okay, from the shithole red planet back to the shithole country of the United States. From the Guardian, what is America's hottest export? Sperm. Sperm from the U.S. and Denmark dominate the sperm market because those countries currently have the most supply. There you go. So they start off with this long, involved story about this 23-year-old unmarried woman who hired her father to help her pick out her sperm donor so she could have an illegitimate child to raise. On the 17-page file provided to clients, the donor, both her father and she, selected to donate his sperm. Quote, the sperm donor said, quote, he wanted to spread his awesome genes throughout the world, which Rasmussen acknowledges, quote, was such an arrogant thing to say. It made me laugh because it really showed me how young he was. I felt like he was joking when he said that, like he was saying it tongue-in-cheek. We hope. Yes, anyway, getting to the juice of the story. Demand for U.S. sperm is on the rise. Not just American, Danish semen is also being used by clueless fucking moron women around the world. Yep. The sperm market. Good. So the California Cryobank claims they have a proven record of 75,000 new bundles of joy added to the planet from this one laboratory. And the guy over, do they have this lab in Denmark, is not claiming how many babies have been born from Danish sperm, but, quote, we sell to over 100 countries worldwide. We own Europe. Yep. Oh, and they just claim to have, quote, the highest number of registered pregnancies in the world. Okay. There you go. Let's go from sperm to gasoline to the shithole country of Venezuela, where anybody, I will make the prediction that if Venezuela is not already in civil war and that Presidente Maduro has not already been assassinated, you can look for Venezuela to erupt in civil war and Maduro to be assassinated after this headline. Venezuela abandons gasoline subsidies as inflation set to hit 1,000,000%. President Nicolas Maduro has said that some of the world's cheapest gasoline that Venezuelan drivers now enjoy will soon be sold at world market prices to combat rampant smuggling. There you go. Venezuela, like most oil-producing countries, has for decades subsidized fuel as a benefit to consumers, but its fuel prices have, because of the subsidies, have remained flat for years, despite hyperinflation that the International Monetary Fund has projected would reach 1,000,000% that year. That means that today, for the price of 1 cup of coffee, a driver in Venezuela can today fill the tank of a small SUV nearly 9,000 times. For the price of 1 cup of coffee, you can fill your tank nearly 9,000 times. But that shit's coming to an end, which means nobody in Venezuela is going to be able to afford 1 gallon of gasoline when this order takes effect in a few days. And anybody who does not know what civil war looks like is getting ready to find out. All right. Why is there a boom in discovering new species despite a biodiversity crisis? How can we be discovering so many new species when species worldwide are disappearing at unprecedented rates. This is the dichotomy Earth finds itself in as it enters a new chapter in its history, the Anthropocene, a time marked by the significant global impact that humans are having on the planet's ecosystems. Well, why not? Wow, maybe this has something to do with it. Urban expansion and deforestation. The rapid urban and rural expansion across many former wilderness areas, which has made access to these once remote parts of the globe relatively straightforward. This is thanks to large-scale infrastructure development and has resulted in widespread habitat modification. As a result, new species discovered in these areas as humans move in are often already threatened with extinction by habitat loss and exploitation by the time they are discovered.
No shit, Sherlock.
This is what happened to 4 recently discovered species of monkeys from southern and southwestern Amazonia. The region was once extremely remote and a place of myth and legend. Blah, blah, blah. But what has happened? But this region has now become the focus of the Brazilian agriculture industry and holds the world's highest annual index of deforestation. Oh, I'm sorry, Brazil's highest index of deforestation. The area is now known as the Brazilian Arc of Deforestation, alluding to the crescent-shaped advancing agricultural frontier that is rapidly engulfing the southern Amazon. With the cutting of the forest and establishment of infrastructure such as roads, access to this once remote area is no longer difficult, making the discovery of these 4 new monkey species almost inevitable. Yep, and can you say Chinese Belt and Road Initiative? Alright, we have some planet nibbling going on next door as we wrap up, get towards the end of our doomsday headlines. Not every, let's go to the piss hole country, of France, where we find not everyone is thrilled about Paris's new eco-friendly open-air urinals.
Warning, bullshit alert.
Anyway, I'm sure I would be thrilled by an eco-friendly open-air urinal opening up next to me, but I might come back to this story about several stories about these new studies about DMT and ayahuasca, talking about it really, you decide what it has to do with an end of the planet. Several interesting stories about this new study talking about ayahuasca producing the same effects of the near-death experience, talking about DMT, but it really doesn't belong here. But we're going to wind up with our chuckle of the day. Trump confidant Roger Stone accidentally shares a meme of President Trump wearing a swastika. longtime confidant of Donald Trump and former advisor Roger Stone has shared a meme of President Trump wearing a swastika. The image, which was shared on Stone's Instagram account, featured himself and several members of the Trump administration, including Sarah Huckabee Sanders, wearing astronaut outfits, a clear nod to their plans to introduce a new branch of the U.S. military called the Space Force. Stone obviously did not check the image very thoroughly, though, as there was a red swastika on their outfits instead of the NASA logo, and the image also featured the phrase, quote, "In space, no one can hear you lie." Stone has since deleted the image, but at least Roger Stone finally having some honest memes on Instagram. But I've got to wind up this today's edition of our Doomer headlines, because me and the little dog need to head back to Sandy's place and get ready for this weekend's end of the world kiss our ass goodbye party, where we're gonna party like it's 1799. Come join us. Are you ready to party like it's 1799? Bye, guys. Don't you love the Harley flag flapping? The Harley flag a-flapping. It's America. I don't know what Donald Trump would say about this Harley motorcycle in the middle of an American flag, and Donald Trump would no doubt have something to say about that. Bye, guys.